Plugged In, a podcast by OREMC about our co-op, our community, and our shared connections. I'm Michele Hutchins, your Member Communications and Marketing Coordinator. And today, on this episode, we are discussing power theft or meter tampering. It's one and the same, or it could be either. But for the average consumer, you're probably wondering, well, what has that got to do with me? Well, actually quite a bit, because as member owners of our cooperative, we're all connected. And so what happens on the system not just affects the individual, typically homeowner, but all of us as members. And so to dig a little deeper into the subject, understand what it is, why it's an issue, and why it can cause problems, joining me today is our Member Services and Community Representative, Royce Proctor. How are you, Royce?
Good to be here today.
So, Royce, you and I first started talking about this topic back in mid to late 2019. And it seemed at the time that several of our sister co-ops across the country were having an uptick in power theft episodes and meter tampering at about the same time we were, which
Yes.
is when you and I started talking about it. There were some new processes and procedures that were put into place about dealing with these issues. We introduced the tip line, which we'll talk about later, but why don't we start at the beginning and help define what are we talking about here?
Well, this power theft is the real issue. It's meter tampering, it's current diversion. They bypass the meter with either jumper cables or wire. It's not anything new. I was reading recently, and back when Edison Power started back in the late 1800s, they had problems immediately with people tapping into the line, and actually they sent a surge down the line to fry everybody's stuff at the time, so to get them off the line. But it's not new, and we have advanced technologies, but every time we have an advanced technology, there's the people that aren't honest advance as well. So
Oh, they get more advanced in
That's correct.
their way. Now, I remember, and I remember then, and you telling me as you were explaining this to me or describing this to me, and I have since seen. Well, you've cleaned it up, but you used to have a pile of
Yes.
examples of tampered meters. But, you said to me back then, door hinges, jumper cables, copper pipes, wire jumps. You have seen it all.
Basically, we just about have. I've seen it from kitchen knives in meter sockets, jumper cables from the weatherhead where the surface entrance comes into the house, bypassing the meter. We've seen where they actually go inside the meter base, have a jumper connected to the line side of the meter, fed it down through and into a breaker in the switch box where when you walked up, it was very hard to detect. So there's a lot of thought into it a lot of time, but they create so many hazards. It's hazardous for our employees, hazardous for their own family, to themselves. I was looking for a statistic on how many people are injured a year tampering with meters or power lines, and I really couldn't find one, or didn't find one, but it's got to be a significant number, and I'm sure there's folks that have lost their lives doing it.
Well, and I mean, for what you're describing, this is kind of like everything I learned in kindergarten 101 in terms of what not to do, but yet has actually occurred. So you mentioned the dangers of it. I mean, there's shock risk.
Yes,
There's fire hazard.
that's correct.
And that comes from the fact that if things are not hooked up properly or diverted, the equipment can heat up, and that heating up
Yes.
can cause arc flashes and explosions. I mean, this is not sandbox type
No.
of minor incidents. These could be very major.
That's correct. There's nowhere in the National Electrical Wiring Code for meter tampering. It's you're bypassing the protection systems to protect your house and life and limb as well. If you when you do things tampering and bypassing the meter, bypassing breakers, things like that, you're tying directly back into the grid. In a way, you're actually compromising the grid too.
Well, I think that's the important thing. So the whole point about power theft and meter tampering is that the person is or has been stealing power.
That's correct.
And years ago, we talked about changes in technology. Well, years ago, meters were read manually. Person went out from house to house, business to business, read the meters, laid eyes on the meter. Well, times and technology have changed. And so therefore the role of what is today a meter technician has also changed. It's not about reading the meter every month. It's not about being at every location every month, every day, every year, year in and year out. It's more about maintenance. It's about, inspections to make sure, random inspections. It's about responding to customer needs. So eyeballs on these things aren't what they used to be. And I think that may be one of the things that was driving this conversation initially, back before the pandemic. It is theft. And as we said earlier, we're all owners. If you're a consumer, you're an owner. So if someone's stealing power and if it goes undetected, it's going to affect everybody.
That's right. It can get into thousands of dollars of theft, depending on how long it goes, how much power they actually stealing. That's one of the problems we have is when you bypass the meter, we don't really know exactly how much power was taken. It wasn't measured. So that's one of the problems too. But in the end, it all comes back, especially with us. We're a nonprofit electric co-op. Unfortunately, we all have to share that cost for that stolen power.
So kind of getting back to the safety side of things a little bit. I mean, everyone sees the meter and, examples of them. Anyone can go look at the meter on their home if they're not sure. But the purpose of that meter is not just to record the usage, but it's also a verification that, as you said, things are hooked up properly.
That's correct.
If you bypass the meter, as we sort of somewhat described the situations, it does become a hazard. And so we've skimmed over it a bit, but let's step back. I mean, the immediate hazard is obviously at the meter site and secondarily, and I keep focusing on homes because this is typically where it's more prevalent if it's going to occur. That's not to say businesses or small businesses haven't
we
done it.
actually have it it's all the way across the board. It's commercial, it's residential. It may be on a farm pole. We found it basically everywhere. It's not that every meter is tampered with by any means. It's not a huge percentage, but it's more than it. One of the things I was reading, we will never stop at 100%. So we have to be vigilant on trying to detect it, inspecting our meters, and that's where we really could use our members' help. When you're out and about on your property, look at your meter. Make sure that someone hasn't tampered with it. We do have instances where meters have been stolen to be put in somewhere else. So take a look at your meter. Every meter has a green meter seal under it that's on the meter base to lock it in to protect it and let us know if it's been tampered with. If that seal's not there, call the co-op and let us know.
Well, you talked about changes in technology. So aside from eyeballs on an actual meter, how do we get some sense that there might be something amiss somewhere?
Well, with our automated meter reading, and we read the meters multiple times a day, that's one of the indicators is that if all of a sudden a meter doesn't show up at a read time, then there's a possibility that someone could have tampered with it, have taken it out and have jumpers in the base or another meter that was taken from another place. We find meters from actually other utilities on our system
How's that possible?
because they stole the meter from another utility and brought it to our system and plugged it in.
As we talked about, tampering or pulling and not having proper protections and safety equipment. Yeah, I mean, we talk about being a hazard. The truth of the matter is, it can lead to death.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the worst fires you can have is with a meter, a flash and all this. It's, well, it's only basically 240 volts, but it's high amperage.
So automatic meter readings. What else? How else might we find out about something that's suspicious?
We actually receive information tips from folks at times that will call and see something suspicious to report, maybe a wire that's running from one house to another, wires attached to a pole, the top of the pole, and coming down the pole, different things like that.
So one of the key ways, as we've said, is, whether it's our meter inspections or another member has seen something that doesn't quite look right to them, may call one of our offices and kind of notify us. Or it could be just by chance, maybe our linemen are out working on something and they find something. Some of it is very happenstance.
That happens as well.
Sure. But we also have another way for members to let us know that there's an issue going on. And as we said, when you and I started talking about this a bit more pre-pandemic, we introduced a tip line.
We did. Yep, it's a confidential tip line. You can call, leave us your information, what's going on. Like I say, you can remain
confidential. You don't have to share your name or anything else. I mean, if you want to, that's fine. So the number is 833 Okie Tips or 833-653-8477. And it goes directly to a voicemail. It kind of prompts you as to what information you need to share. And you, Royce, actually are the one who monitors that email. So it's the more information you can provide, the better. You are not required to leave your name. It's more about just making us aware, making Royce aware, because you are our chief investigator.
Yes, ma'am. I guess so.
Well, typically when there is something suspicious, I mean, if this is from a reported standpoint, obviously if our line crews or our meter techs find something, obviously they deal with them in the field. But when it's something else that we're not aware of or no one else has come across,
that's correct.
Then you are the chief investigator.
Yes. It's and in saying that, I've been in the business for a few years, and I've pretty much seen about all of it when it comes to meter tampering. And like I say, I've seen it where it did involve thousands of dollars. It was commercial. I've seen a lot of residential. People do damage your equipment and stuff, so we see that very often. When they put something in the meter base that's not designed to be in the meter base, it does damage it.
So, and I guess that's another important component. As we mentioned earlier, when you steal, you're stealing from everybody.
That's correct.
So it is a significant impact to the system at large. But efforts are made to determine how long such tampering or theft may be occurring and what that accumulated theft is. And in those situations, they are held liable for those expenses as they can best be estimated.
Yes, when we're able to determine the responsible party, and we do everything we can to recover that cost or as much of that cost as possible. We have recovered thousands of dollars and have multiple cases actually ongoing now. And like I say, it's something that we just have to stay very vigilant after. So,
well, and that's really the point of this conversation today, is to make you, our members, more aware of the fact that this does occur, and that vigilance we need your help with that, because the whole point is keeping our employees safe. It's the security and the integrity of our electrical
That's correct.
distribution system, as well as ensuring the continuous flow of reliable power. Because, as we said, it seems like a small, isolated issue, 1 meter, 1 home, but it can have larger ramifications. So again, we do have that. I mean, you're more than welcome to call Royce or any of the offices directly. But
Yes.
if you're just unsure about that, like we said, we have the confidential tip line, which is 833 OKE TIPS, which is 833 OKE TIPS, or OKE, or 833 653 8477. You'll be prompted what to leave. Royce will check those voicemails, and then if you leave follow-up numbers, he'll follow up with you. If not, he'll take it from there, and we'll address these issues as they arise. But it does take all of us.
Oh, it does. And like I say, it's not just with Okefenokee EMC. It's nationwide,
Right.
and actually worldwide.
Right. And even from the dawn of
That's
electricity in the big cities, people were trying to figure out a way to get something for nothing. So
That's true.
it's an age-old issue and adage. Well, Royce, thank you for
Thank you.
coming in to talk with me about it a little bit more. It's been a while, but no less important as time has gone on. So thank you so much.
Have a good day.